privateer in the 18th century is licensed in time of war by its government to attack the shipping of the enemy. If you're a ship owner, perhaps your ordinary trade has been stopped by war, you've got a nice fast ship, you arm her if she isn't armed already, you cram her full of men, and you send her out to cruise in the likely track of the enemy shipping. The 18th century took it for granted that profit and patriotism went hand in hand. People didn't send privateers to sea for amusement. They sent them to sea in the expectation or in the hope of making money.
During the course of the war, nearly 2,000 sea-raiding American ships took an $18 million toll on British commerce.
It is by cutting off supplies, not by attacks, sieges, or assaults, that I expect deliverance from enemies. John Adams.
After saving Washington's army in the dramatic night evacuation from Brooklyn to Manhattan in late August of 1776, and successfully ferrying the army across the ice-choked Delaware before the Battle of Trenton, John Glover and his Marbleheaders heard the siren's call of wealth on the seas.
Glover's regiment pretty much disappeared. They all went home to Marblehead and signed up on privateers because that was how you could make a fortune in the Revolution. And in fact, Washington frequently bemoaned the fact that he was having trouble recruiting men because half of New England was out on ships raiding British commerce and making a bundle.
The Scotch-born seaman Captain John Paul Jones was part of the small official Continental Navy, but he still kept prizes like the privateers.
His career is short but very spectacular. This is the period before France has entered the war. The main successes of people like John Paul Jones was not actually that they captured lots of ships, but they had a tremendous public relations impact. And they did a huge amount to establish the rebel cause as being a serious one, at the point when the rebels are desperate for foreign support, desperate to persuade the French and others that they're a cause worth supporting.
Robert Morris, the so-called financier of the Revolution, kept the Continental Navy afloat through his fiscal wheeling and dealing. Jones wrote him a letter in 1776 that clearly articulated his formula for a successful navy.
The common class of mankind are actuated by no nobler principle than that of self-interest. Enlist the seamen and give them all the prizes. If our enemies, with the best established and most formidable navy in the universe, have found it expedient to assign all prizes to the captors, how much more is such policy essential to our infant fleet? John Paul Jones.
By 1779, Jones commanded a slow French-built ship, the Bonhomme Richard, or Goodman Richard, named after Ben Franklin's creation in Poor Richard's Almanac. Franklin and Jones were friends, and the old diplomat gave the young sea captain many ideas for specific raids that would have the greatest propaganda values. In the Bonhomme Richard off the coast of England, Jones attacked a British convoy and achieved his most legendary success.
He just managed to capture the Serapis, the frigate which commanded the convoy escort, just in time because his own ship actually sank under him in the course of the action.
It was during this desperate engagement that Jones supposedly shouted the line that became a symbol of dogged tenacity: "I have not yet begun to fight."
It was a famous victory, of course, and it made tremendous newspaper headlines and a great sensation. From the strictly military point of view, it was a failure because the convoy got away. But from the psychological and political point of view, which was really what mattered at that point to the rebels, it was a great success and a very important one.
If the rewards for civilian privateering were great, so too were the punishments. Captured privateers were held in several prison ships like the Jersey, anchored off of New York City, near Long Island. Since they were not officially recognized as true soldiers or sailors, the privateers were ineligible for prisoner exchange and would languish in the darkness until the war's end or death.
There were continual noises during the night, the groans of the sick and the dying, the curses poured out by the weary and exhausted upon our inhuman keepers, the restlessness caused by the suffocating heat and the confined and poisoned air, mingled with the wild and incoherent ravings of delirium, were the sounds which, every night, were raised around us in all directions. Such was our ordinary situation. But at times the consequences of our crowded conditions were still more terrible and proved fatal to many of our number in a single night. Captain Thomas Drain, privateer.
Nearly 11,000 Americans died aboard the Jersey and similar vessels off Long Island during the war.